welcome. The study of the nature and characteristics of God is one of those areas that have bothered mankind, specifically for those English-speaking nations and English-speaking people. We believe that the Creator, or we have been trained or conditioned rather to think that the Creator's name is God. Is that correct? Is this true? Where did this word come from? Is this the word that we as black people, as Africans, we should use? What is the name of the Creator? Origins of this word, as well as concordances that deals with the scriptures and the verses in their original language for us to derive any understanding of this word. Then we will have to look at the spiritual aspect and the spiritual behavior of the people or nations or individuals that have used this word across the ages. Therefore, for us to understand who and what is God, we have to go into the dictionaries, and one of the dictionaries that we are using and looking at this point is the Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary, which tells us that the word God comes from a Germanic word Gott, spelled G-O-T, and it goes on to tell us that this word is derived from the Teutonic usage that was adopted by Christians in the 7th century. So we know that this word has had a long history, maybe over 1,400 years of usage. But the question still remains, is it right? Is it the correct word for us black people or any people that desire to worship the Creator use? We know definitely that the concept of a creating entity or a creator spirit was formulated first and foremost and originally by black African scholars whose civilization apexed the level of development in ancient Egypt when they started to build pyramids and exported these pyramids all over the world as a concept of hierarchical understanding of the universe and reality. Therefore, we having realized that this word God is of heathen Teutonic origin, we must ask that where else can we find the evidence for this? Because we can't just go to Webster's Collegiate Dictionary and say, here is the word. When we look at the Tibetan English Dictionary with Sanskrit synonyms, as written by Sarat Chandra Das, it tells us and shows us that the Teutonic or Germanian reverence for this God was long preceded by a Sanskrit Thor God. The 20th century dictionary confirms this pagan origin of the name God, where it says it is applied to the heathen deities. And later, when the Teutonic peoples became Christians or were converted to Christians, they elevated their deity, this God they worshipped, to the level of supremacy. Therefore, when this Tibetan English Dictionary, published by Motilal Banasidas, tells us quite clearly that this Germanic word is of pagan origin. Since the Germans are mentioned by Herodotus, who was the father of history, or so-called father of history, tells us that the Germans were a tribe of Persians. Therefore, it is not surprising that their use of this word God should also be found in Persia. We know that Gott, G-O-T or G-O-T for God, clearly have correspondences and connections with the Persian use of the word Khoda, K-H-O-D-A, for God. The reluctance to recognize this connection by Christian scholars and their objection is because they don't realize and they don't want people to realize that their Judeo-Christian religion has connections with Persia. Therefore, when you look even at their refusal to accept this, you find that the story of Jesus' birth found in the New Testament has the three magis or wise men who came from the east. These were Persians. So giving clues and keys that other aspects in the New Testament have a lot of Persian theology or Persian spirit or Persian doctrine. We will show how this is manifested in the behavior of European countries across the ages. They are conquering and colonizing spirit. Anyway, we know that the Teutons and their kindred call him God. These are the Germans, call him God, G-O-T-T. The French, they call him Dieu, D-I-E-U. The Spanish call him Dios, D-I-O-S. The Italians call him Dio, D-I-O. The Portuguese call him Deus, D-E-U-S. These are all the names of God, now in English called God. And the Greeks, not to leave them behind, we know they call him Theos. That's the name they use. That's the name we find in the New Testament. The Greeks adopted it from the Persians. Theos and the Persian and its Persian variant Zeus derived from the Sanskrit Gauss, D-Y-A-U-S or D-E-U-S, which means to shine or give light. You also find this explained clearly in the Catholic Dictionary Art on Etymology of the word God, or you can go on the online etymological dictionary and look at the word Theos. We know that this word Theos is popular because we call theology is the study of God. We also know that there is a word Theotokos, which means the mother of God, meaning Mary. It's all Greek mythology. It's all Greek thinking. Therefore, we know that it is quite clear that the origins of the name God is Babylonian. And for Hebrews, the word God for a deity is not God. It is never a God. Anyway, the question is, who then is God? We have identified him already. God is the deity worshipped by Europeans who derive it from Persians and Babylonians. And today they want to connect it with the Almighty, the Creator. And should use. For date, G-O-D, the word G-O-D, G/D, G-H-A-D, G-A-W-D was used with the same meaning by the Assyrians and Babylonians who captured the tribes of Israel. And this we find it in the book of Baal God by Miller Gedisi, his chapter, Just Who is God. You can also go to searchthescriptures.org and article 34 to find these explanations. In Isaiah, we know that when the Hebrews or the Jews or the Israelites came back from Babylon, they carried this understanding and they started to import it and sell it in Africa. And in Isaiah 32, Isaiah, he says, and he makes a caving and bends part and a remnant. He makes a graven image of his God to him, and he is worshipping and he is praying to him and saying, rescue me from you, all my Eliel. The King James Version has falling on the knees and the face for the word G-U-D. So they removed this word G-O-D, God, and saying falling on the knees. But the Webster's Revised Abridged Dictionary tells us that this is God translated as falling on the knees. So we have established that the Hindu word who, H-U, or that many people who meditate think is this is it, or Khoda, which is, or Khoda, K-H-O-O-D-A, are the origins of the Persian word for God, and also the Babylonian words, because they were in the same area and they were influenced by the Hindu culture. And in time, the Hindu culture also influenced the Teutonic people of old Germany, with the interpretation and the definition of Baal hiding behind that. And it means what is worshipped by sacrifice. And quite clearly, it also means the sacrifices of both animal and human sacrifice. It is pagan, totally pagan, to use the word God for the divine, for the all, for the El, for the Amen, for the unknown creator. Anyway, the Hebrew word which today is connected with God is a singular word. It's Eloha, or Eloi, or El, or Era, which means holy, Yera, which means holy, or Dala, Dali, Eli. These are all the words. So, the Hebrew scholars never recognized this word God. And we realize that the word God, rather than being one of the original Hebrew words, for the Judeo-Christian date, it is traced to pagan usage as far back as the Persians and the Babylonians. We use the language to discover that. However, as mentioned before and in most of our teachings, everything has been changed, and this word has crept in the Old Testament. So when you go to the Old Testament, you read Genesis 30 verse 11, you find that this word G-O-D or G/D or G-H-A-D or God is now used to designate the god of fortune, a Babylonian deity. Therefore, we can never say fortune or a god is God. Our modern understanding, Christian circles, as God is good is a pagan, total pagan chant. The spelling of the word God, G-O-D, is identical today with the Anglo-Saxon word for good or for fortune, G-O-O-D. It is also a word that can easily be reversed and be given as D-O-G, dog. We can't have the name of the creator like that. We can't play with the name of the creator and have a creator's name like that. It's a pagan, total pagan word. The spelling that we have given, which means a fortune or a good. However, we know that its original meaning, this word, G-O-D, crowding upon, attacking, invade, and also overcome or cut. We have seen that in the verse of Isaiah where he laughs about this Kevin. Now, the spirit that is connected with this word is demonstrated by the people that used it. Perhaps the tribes of Israel, when taken into captivity, and when they came back, took this word, and also, as we have already seen, used it. The name of the creator, you are the creator. You know it, you name it. So all these other words are not connected with us. So let's go back to this word, God, which we have seen that it means to raid, to conquer, and all these other words, all these other actions, all these other spirits. Certainly it is not of Hebrew divine name found in the Torah, this word God. When Isaiah condemns the setting of a table for God, i.e. God, G-O-D, he is rebuking those who practiced, even them that feast and celebrate the worship of the name God instead of YHVH, the nameless one. We will show you in another video this meaning and this word which you can use in place of YHVH. We will show you. But Isaiah says in Isaiah 65 verse 11, but you are those who forsake YHVH, who forget my holy mountain, Africa, and you go to Babylon, you go to Persia, you go to the Sanskrit to borrow his name there and prepare a table for God and pour drinks for fortune. That's what he's going. This he is saying concerning the unrecognized word G-O-D. Notice carefully that Strong's Concordance tries to hide here and uses G-A-W-D. This is exactly the same God we are condemning today. Now, This word Gedad or G-E-D-U or G-O-D or G/D is related to the same root, which means the bands or a band of raiders. The use of the word God in the minds of the nations who conquered others in pursuit of fortune, including the indigenous nations of Africa, nations of Europe, of America, Australia, Indonesia, and many others, used this word God as a justification for their acts of conquest, to come to a level of a band of raiders who, in the eyes of those who were oppressed, were just as evil as possible. Where we conclude by a statement by Shawnee Chief Tecumseh, as quoted by Butler's book of quotations. He says, "The Great Spirit knows no boundaries, nor will his red children acknowledge any. Once they were a happy race, now they are made miserable by the white people, who are never contented but are always encroaching. Sell a country, why not sell the air, the clouds, and the great sea, and the ocean, as well as the earth? Did not the Great Spirit make them all for the use of all his children?" Therefore, in conclusion, when we read Genesis 49:19, we find that it has been translated as a troop, but it actually should be God or G/D, G-O-D, or Gudad, G-U-D-U-D, which is God raiders. And in the previous verse, the speaker asks Yahweh to save him from these God raiders. No wonder why this tribe's totem is Gudo, G-U-D-O, for Gudo or Makudo. They are raiders. Please look at this word Makudo and Koda, M-A-K-U-D-O, baboons. That's what we are meaning. Well, that's what it means. They are raiders. That it's a troop of raiders. These are the Gadais. They are totem. So at the end of the day, it is time for you and me to leave this God, to leave this God of fortune, this foreign deity, this pagan, that's pagan Theotokos theology, and remove ourselves from materialistic worship of good fortune or God, and rather turn to the Creator, the Nameless One. The word matters. Observe this, subscribe to our channel, and tell others. Thank you. Goodbye.